Renata, and Kukubaku Jr. were all stubborn critics.
Shut up! What are you trying to do? Confuse the court? If you interrupt me again, I will sentence you to another 2 years imprisonment for contempt of court. I also give you 1,000 years for devaluing the city to make it easier for your government to operate and difficult for the people to think. Your friend, Quality Grain, and sister-in-law will share some of your sentences. I also sentence you to another 1,000 years for selfishness.
Oh, how?
The ESB wasn't good for the people, but it was good for you and your friends.
But Your Honor, that's why we have the ruled and the ruling classes.
Nonsense. Boropaku, did you take public office to erase the poverty in your family? What do you mean? A part of my jury, which is made up of the ghost of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Dr. J.B. Dankwa, they have asked me to give you another 1,000 years for wasting about half of our independence years experimenting with the people. You also have to write a letter to explain what happened at GNPC and what you mean by integrity and accountability. Who were favoritism and nepotism to you after you have killed others for defending them? What happened to our sports?
That we were impressive. We hired and fired many foreign coaches. We attended several competitions, sometimes with more officials than athletes, bought stopwatches, scoreboards, and renovated and painted the Accra and Kumasi sports media in the national colors. Clearly, Your Honor, you can see we laid the foundation before the NPP took over.
Nonsense. After 20 years, I'll give you another 2,000 years. I also sentence you to another 1,000 years for deceiving the people. You have 5 children, yet you were telling the people about contraceptives because you could take care of yours, but made it difficult for the people to take care of theirs. I also charge you for involving yourself in a senseless gun battle at Dansoma. You are also to go and learn the difference between an NGO and a women's wing of a political party before you start your jail sentences. Kolebu was a graveyard. Graveyards are peaceful. Now it is a slave dungeon, dying people lying on bed floors in mosquito-infested rooms.
Your Honor, cash and carry was to recover costs, ensure efficient health service delivery, and make life more meaningful.
Are you crazy or what? I heard your earlier campaigns. Oh, we will bridge the gap between the poor and the rich. 20 years later, the rich are still getting richer and the poor are dying.
Your Honor, I would like to explain what I meant by that.
Shut up! This is a positive change court, and I am not allowing any politicking here. You are also charged for taking too much money in taxes from the poor people because of poor management. The continuous borrowing from IMF and World Bank in the name of the people, the money that the people never spent. Now I want to ask you a question. Who threw the shit bomb?
Your Honor.
Answer me, who threw the shit bomb?
Oh, Your Honor, that's unfair. We don't want to condemn that.
You are to reach the whole of Accra Sports Stadium for that. You are also supposed to save 2,000 years if you don't tell me who owns the new jet, receipts covering it, and what we are supposed to pay.
Your Honor, have you forgotten the Council of State declared the Obujet a flying coffin? Besides, the President enjoyed flying. It was to prevent loss of VIP life.
Are you crazy? I said, what is the price? Who owns it? Remove the words in your ears, otherwise you content yourself. You have been accused of misbehavior. While students...
Well. Hello, and good morning to you all out there listening to me. This is Saturday, the April the 20th. March, April the 21st, 2018. April the 21st, 2018, and the time is exactly 11:23 a.m. This is Afro Voice Radio. We're transmitting live from Cincinnati, Ohio. And if you hear my voice, it is time again. It is Hot Topics. Yes, Hot Topics, and we bring this program to you every Saturday from 11 to 1. And if you can hear from my voice, I am a little bit under the cold, so pardon me. I'm not feeling very well, but this program has to go on. And I want to thank you all for staying tuned to this program. I have in the studio, as usual, my guest and my roundtable. At the same time, they are my co-pilots. So they're going to be here with me to make sure that we make justice to the topics that we're going to lay to discuss. Now, there's been a few developing issues going out there. We'll try as much as possible to run into all of them, and hopefully we can have an understanding about the news going out in the last maybe week, and then make sense of what is happening. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Trump's world. We're going to be talking about Ghana. A whole bunch of issues has arisen from a whole lot of things that happened last week. I don't want to get into the details right now, so we're going to be looking into it. We're also going to talk about Africa, where there has been some change of names in some countries. We want to look into that and see how, if it's a positive move or if it's a retrogressive move, whatever it is, we're going to also be talking about it. Well, like I said, this is Afro Voice, and the program is Hot Topics. We are going to be here from now all the way to 11. So, all the way to 1. So please hold on. Do not go nowhere. Sit back and listen to this music whilst we get prepared and come to you in a bit. Hold on.
Well, strike. People not be able to afford half square meal a day. Inadequate security for our women. Massive migration from rural areas to urban areas. Unemployment, redeployment, underdevelopment, high cost of living. You were driving in big cars in air conditions, shouting, yeah. Travesty of justice, as you claim, is no excuse. Your boom can't scare anybody. Yes, your boom, it can't scare anybody. You deceive yourself with the silting of bodies. You are also charged for insulting people in public. Domela, Jimakla, and Co. Listen, did you remove the speck in your eye before doing that? I give you 2,000 years too for that.
Welcome back, listeners. Our live coverage of the sitting of the special court continues. The atmosphere of the court is tense. Justice Kokonsa doesn't seem to know anything like mercy and appears to be going for the maximum sentence in the case. The prosecution team looks cheerful and upbeat, while the demeanor on the side of the defense attorney appears quite unsettled. We now take you back to the courtroom.
Order! You remember the divestitures? Divestiture here, divestiture there, divestiture everywhere. Didn't bring us anything. What about the ghost names? Joe, my brother, you remember the energy crisis? Poor planning. Do you know that the International Conference Center, the new one is leaking? You did all these things. What worries me is that you did it after complaining of furnishing your living room with helicopter seats. Are you guilty or not guilty? I said, are you guilty or not guilty? You should have been hanged. Yes, I should have hanged you. But for your political stability that we enjoyed, improved road network, rural electrification projects, your return to multi-party democracy, your refurbishing of the Kolebu Mortuary, and your 4 doctorate degrees, I'll be lenient with you. I'll give you 5,000 years, 450 months, 100 weeks, and 50 days imprisonment with hard labor. However, you'll be allowed to contest in the 2004 election. So, Mr. Henderson, you see that this court is full of probity, accountability, transparency, and integrity. Democracy at its base. Freedom of speech. I, Justice Dawudzo Kosimi Kosi, HM Kokosa, the grandson of Dr. protecting the frontal region. My court is on recess to be back with the next accused ever.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard things for us. Justice Kokonsa just winding up his feelings on the first sitting of his practical capacity court. He's giving the impression today that he will continue to carry out his adjudications without fear of favor. Only time will tell. Until the next accused is brought before Justice Kokonsa's court, I'd like to say thank you for choosing this dial. You just accepted the beautiful experience. Positive change. trial of some political parties is coming off at the Independence Square in Accra today. There is an unprecedented public interest in the trial, and already a sea of people have gathered to witness the first sitting of the special court. It is presided over by Justice H.K.A. Kokonsa. We now cross over to the Independence Square to give you live coverage as events unfold at the court. Please stay tuned in.
Now my court is in session. Would you please stand? First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Justice Dawubido Kosidi Kosi Kokosa HK. I'm the grandson of something when you're from the Water region in the Republic of Ghana. So therefore, I am a Ghanaian. Some people call me Judge 2000, for I've never convicted for less than 2,000 years. And today, I am coming to try you all politicians and political parties for leading Ghanaians nowhere. Positive change, 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 positive change. Yes, this is the real positive change court. Today, what are the cases?
Your Honor, today we have Mr. NDC, Mr. NPP, the chair.
Well, good morning, and we are back to discussing the issues and the topics of today. My name is Ebenezer, and I'm going to be here with Joe. And hopefully we're going to be speaking to Louis on the phone. Good morning, Joe, and thank you for making it this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
How's the morning going? I'm struggling.
I know. What happened to you?
Oh, man. I don't know.
At least we had a nice weather this week.
We did. I think Madame, it all goes to Madame. I'm going to blame her.
After your son winning all the titles in the taekwondo.
I know.
Yeah, he's a future Olympic medal.
Thank you so much. We'll do what we can do. In this country, you got to put the kids where they enjoy, make them, and that is something that we never got back home.
Oh, of course,
we were not exposed to many things, especially in sports.
Yeah, you're right.
Our parents were fixated on one thing: is school. You got to be a doctor, a lawyer, a pilot, an engineer.
Not even a teacher.
And
even if you have to even run away to go and play football, you'll be beaten. Even if you'll be beaten, and even if you get injured while playing football,
you're worse off. You're worse off. Yeah.
Ghana, they will say, "Oh, Tria, we told you not to go." But
do we, as parenting in our culture, and I say in Ghana, are we kind of deceived, or do we lose focus on where we want our children to be?
Yeah, I mean, like I say to every Newton said, to every action there is equal and opposite reaction. And if you look at how the society of Ghana evolved from colonization, you realize that it was all about white collar jobs. Right after independence, and Nkrumah tried to put more emphasis on sports and sporting activities. But then the reward that people actually got from the sporting activities wasn't encouraging, and or we did not treat sports as a commercial or a profession for people to make ends meet, whether they are playing football or taekwondo or swimming or riding bicycle or stuff like that. So there wasn't any direct evidences for people to say, oh, look at this person, he is a footballer and he's making ends meet. All we can associate with is a doctor living in his bungalow, or you will see maybe a banker or or maybe a lawyer, because that was what we could easily associate with in the community, right from colonization. So it was difficult for your parent to have a role model and say, oh, once you're a footballer, you can make an ends meet. And all the footballers around the community, there's nothing good to write home about. So it's just recently that we get the likes of Abedi Pele, John Mensah, the likes of C.K. Akono, when they started going to Europe and making money, Asamoah Gyan, Stephen Appiah and co, and all the new folks making huge money from football. And so the attention is gradually shifting towards football. Boxing is still struggling. And so as a nation, we have not actually taken sport and sporting activity as a means of alleviating poverty. And that has been one of the challenges. And I think that if we decide to put in more, because every Ghanaian youth, especially the male, they are natural footballers. All they get to do is just learn the skills. Every Ghanaian youth, 8 out of 10, they are all natural footballers. So.
You know what? And since you mentioned this one, and listeners, if you're joining us, this is Afro Voice Radio, and the time is exactly, let me see, 36 minutes past the hour of 11 a.m. We're transmitting live from Cincinnati, Ohio, and we're going to be here till 1 p.m. What we're beginning with this is a political show, but what we're beginning is the social issues, and my colleague Joe is giving us a little bit rundown on how we develop our kids back home, and the things that we tend to believe that they are important, and how we're going to make our children grow, and especially here in in America, or in the Western world, we have seen some of these things, come to know them, that it is not necessarily how we believe them to be, but actually it is a process where it grows every kid, and it exposes them to the world that they are coming to meet. Now, since you said this, I was even surprised when I saw you play soccer, because I never thought that Joe can kick a football. I have thought about you are just being an academician, you know. Then when I saw you play, I was so amazed, because you are good. I'm not kidding, because I'm good. And so when I see people who are good, but that is where we lack. Our parents back home then thought that children cannot combine sporting activities with academics.
Yeah.
And I think that is where we lack. Where is that knowledge coming from? Where is that? Is it deception? Is it deceiving the people? What is it?
The reality is that even though we have evidences to the fact that people are making good money, the likes of ACN, Sule Muntari and Asamoah Gyan and co, Abedi Pele, Professor Zuma Nelson, and you can name them. Even though we have evidences now, the probability, the chance of a Ghanaian youth playing soccer and succeeding is minimal. Why? Because we don't have the infrastructure. And so if you are a footballer from, say, your constituency or your village, you'll be playing on a raw surface, and the system of recruiting players and giving them chances to progress is not even transparent. It's muddy with corruption and bribery. And so your parents, with that kind of fear, and which is true, valid, with that kind of valid conclusion, will not even want you to, as it were, go in that direction, because chances are that you not succeed.
But Joe, don't we also have, and I'm not sure about the figure, but a chunk, majority of graduates who don't
have a job.
Who don't have a job.
Yeah,
they have nothing to do.
But the point is,
what is the difference between a graduate who has gone through all the education and still don't find something to do
because
and the football the player who might have tried his luck
themselves. They can console themselves that in the future you can have a job, and,
so
and it's worth it.
It's consolation.
Exactly. At least you know that in 10 or 5, a maximum of 5, 16 years time you can get a job. But then if you go in playing soccer and you don't succeed, what happens? And I know people, I know a lot of them. I'm sure in your community you are aware of players that you know, you are very much sure that these people really know how to play soccer or table tennis. And I mean, when we were growing, tennis was very popular. Every Sunday we would run away after church and go to the community center, and all the money we have gotten, the coins we've gotten from our parents, we'll go and use it to play table tennis, and we will ride a bicycle. Even though when your mother sees you are going to be in trouble, you go and rent a bicycle and run for 30 minutes or 1 hour or so. And then we are so excited. Today, cycling is a sport and people are making living out of that. So the point is, I think that the government need to put in more money. Every community, every district must have like a sports complex where you can go and at your free time you can go and say play soccer, table tennis, lawn tennis, basketball. That's even another opportunity. Look at the Kenyans. They are really making money out of basketball. We have advantage of that. Government must begin to build sport because the challenge we are facing now is we are converting all the small corners that we used to play our small pools. We are now converting all of them into real estate and stores. And so a Ghanaian youth growing up, it's even difficult these days to find a small place and play soccer. And that's even affecting our ability to strike as a nation. We don't even have a real competitive striker as at now. So I think that government must put more emphasis at the sports ministry and education. Another problem we are also facing as a nation is we are putting so much emphasis on learning, and to the disadvantage of extracurriculum activities, and to the extent that these days, back in our days, we have interco and a whole week, sometimes 2 weeks will be dedicated.
Hey, I remember those days. It used to be one of the greatest event that every student want to be.
You want to be,
but now you don't even hear about all those things before we killed it.
You are thinking about going to write your BEC or SHS exams, and you have just two years, and you need to get the A's, because if you don't get the A's, you even with the A's you are not getting admission. So you want to blow. So who will get that chance? So these days only small fraction of the sporting folks are sent to the intercourse and for just weeks. And so all that is affecting our participation, because I remember back then we used to play and then we will go for regional, we go for zonal, we go for regionals. We have the Milo soccer team.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. And I mean, it was so interesting that you would want to play the part of your interco games. These days,
I remember those were the times, or that was the place that some of us would go and even find our girlfriends and our boyfriends.
Yeah.
And it used to be so fun.
And we developed talent.
And we did develop
a lot of talent through that. And through that, they will have the national under 17 teams and stuff like that. So I think that it's time government must really focus on sporting activity as a way of alleviating poverty.
As a way of, and I like that way. I think that the focus has been that, like you said, the only way we can alleviate poverty is through white-collar jobs. I think that is where the mindset has been for the African, and not necessarily investing, in some of these things, because we know in this country look at the money at Samoa
alone.
It's a big deal.
Samoa alone.
Absolutely.
Just look at the money.
Look at the monies that they put in NFL. Look at the monies that they put in NBA. Look at even their national league, their MLS,
exactly,
which is not even popular. But look at the money they invest into that.
Can have one bout and go home with $150 million, and you can have the likes of, and we have them. Go to Bukom, we have the talent. we have proven that we can win world champions.
Now, these are all people that when we are back home, we tend to think the way we have just said, that it's for a successful child, the only way for you out is to finish your education, find some white collar job,
be in your suit,
even if it's 105-degree burning, and then go to the office. Yet when we transit to the Western world, for example, i.e. America, we begin to understand that that is not the case, and then we focus on our children, giving them all the exposure and taking children to all these sporting events. What causes this transition in your mind? Is it a way the country is structured, or somehow we begin to understand that education is not all, and that there are other pieces of things that add up to make a life a whole?
Yeah, that's the opportunity we are talking about. Even though we are, because the point is that we are forced to go through education. I tell you, there are so many thousands of Ghanaians who have been able to complete university education. If they were here, they wouldn't even try to go to all that schooling. So when we come here and we redefine the purpose of education, we redefine our identity, then we don't want to do same. Even though I must admit that a lot of Ghanaians, you are one of the few people who would want to redefine depending on the interest and expertise of your child. But majority of Africans in general and Ghanaians I know still pushes their kids to study. I mean, because that has become our DNA. Even if we come here, irrespective of whatever age, we still want to go to school.
Yeah.
We still want to go to school. We still want to go to nursing. We still want to go and do pharmacy, medicine. I mean, whatever, PhD. Even whilst there are other professions we can even take on. Because of the way we have been trained. All we think about is a white collar job. All we think about is a white collar job. Be in your suit, be in your tie, stay at the office and make money. But I tell you, there are so many, you have been here for a long, there are so many jobs, people learning trade, making a lot of money. But because of how the British trained us as people, that is our mindset. It's about a white collar job. And because what we are failing to understand is to do a real retrospective analysis of why the British were giving resources more to the white collar people or the white collar jobs because those people were coming from Europe with all the suitable and comfortable conditions. It will be difficult for somebody to accept a post to be in Africa. And so when they accept to be in Africa, they need to give them a cook, they need to give them a car, they need to give, they have to elevate their status and make their condition more favorable. And we copied that as Africans as we are, we copied it without thinking. And so when we got our independence, instead of us to dismantle that structure, we copied it ditto. And so our politicians just, all of a sudden, a white man wasn't there. Now our politicians occupy and they took all the benefits. So you have a Ghanaian politician, he's thinking that he needs to get a driver, he needs to get a big car, he needs to get a house for free, and then doesn't pay electricity. And meanwhile, he's paid salary. And you come to Europe and America here, no politician is giving that benefit.
Absolutely.
They have their own small office. They pay their benefits, or they make a living from their salary. But you go to Ghana and we have to pay for all that, forgetting that when the white man was doing that, it was a way of motivating the white folks to move all the way from England to come and live in 17th century Africa. And unfortunately, we couldn't dismantle that. So it has now become more or less like an entitlement. So every African politician, once even is an assemblyman, feels like he's more privileged and will need to get those things for free. And unfortunately, instead of them to look at how we can consider like sporting activities in alleviating poverty, we can a whole lot of stuff in alleviating poverty. We are still as a society thinking through education. So Nanado will come here, he will talk about free SHS. But have you asked yourself, what about people who goes to say technical schools? People who go to the seamstress road side seamstress or roadway seamstress or mechanic, what we call fitter, to learn a trade. Who take care of them? Because they are not in high school, they don't get benefit from the free SHS. By here, we have the GED, and from that GED, you can go to some of this trade and then get some financial aid support to do whether mechanic or something like that. So, as a nation, I think that we need to really, really ask ourselves what we want, and then begin to think outside the box holistically and see how we can bring all other sectors within the economy and help them grow together. Other than that, I'm afraid we will still be thinking about school. They come home, and after school, after university, they cannot do anything. And that's how we are.
That is how we are. And I'm excited that even we're having this discussion because recently, for example, like in the NBA, there's a Nigerian boy that plays for the Packers, Indiana. Is it Pacers or Packers, whatever?
The Nigerians are really doing well. They have, I think, about 11 or so players,
and
Kenyans as well.
Yeah, just the Winter Olympics. There were another Nigerians that were in the bobsledding event, and not to say that Nigeria is not a huge country with overly populated citizens, but the fact that you are finding them in some of these things that we, and when I say we, Ghanaians, don't even think that is necessary, it's encouraging. And that is why the discussion is very important to me, because we must begin to understand what constitutes a whole person. Not only you are not defined by the school you go, but you're also defined by the things you get involved. Community labor. We don't even offer that back home. All these things they are a credit to our resume.
Music.
Recently, there was somebody that got hired. One of the job I was told, and I was told that he came in with no. He has a qualification, right? He's going to the university, but he has no background on experience. Yeah. And the only thing he had was his engagement in sports. And I'm told that he was a what do you call it? The Reds game, what is it called again? Baseball player. He was a baseball player, not the professional baseball player. He's just
like a
high school baseball player, playing baseball. Now he converted that event into experience. Said that
they do that here.
I have never hold any job, but I have been engaged with baseball, and I can strike at this rate, and I hear the way the guy transitioned that experience in baseball. He was given a job.
I mean, like,
and so
even in Ghana, somewhere even when we were somewhere in the 90s and even early 2000, when we write a BEC then, and we have some students who fail abysmally, but because they were more athletic, they know how to play soccer. You can get the likes of Pope Jones, St. Peter's. They will pick you because you are of your talent.
Right here is more of what do you call it? They pick you based on how did they even call it? Scholarship.
Exactly.
We don't give scholarship,
but these days it's no more.
The scholarship is only given to the cocoa farmer child.
We are talking about computer placement based on your results at face. So when we are talking about computer placement, how do you convert your interco experience or to get admission? And so the point is that, and that is why the sporting ministry needs to be redefined. It should be a way of alleviating poverty. So that we sit down as a country and say, where are the talents? When we go to Bukom, when we go to say Ashanti Tema and some part of almost everywhere in Ghana, people who can play soccer. How do we? But when I was growing, you come to Eastern region, we talk about table tennis. They can play very well. These days, you don't even get them. You see, so, and the sporting ministry is all interested in going to Olympic Games and blah blah and doing visa corrections and fraud. And,
anyways,
and so it's becoming more. And these days, sports, we are not even making any headway in sports. Okay, because we don't pump in money.
Look at what happened in the recent. Is it the Commonwealth Games? That how many medals did we win?
Just one. Just one of them, and
it was a bronze, right?
Yeah, just one. And meanwhile, we sent volleyball team that didn't even exist.
And I was even looking at there was a documentary that was shown the last time, the cyclist from Ghana
there with broken back. So I think that we have actually lost the argument when it comes to really using sports as a way of alleviating poverty. And I think that we actually need a serious analysis of the issue. Thank you so much, Joe. I think we're going to move on, but if you just join us or you just tune in, this is Afro Voice Radio. We're transmitting live from Cincinnati, Ohio. My name is Eb. I'm going to be here with Joe till 1 p.m. and it's a political talk show. And what we do in the beginning, we talk about social issues and the events affecting all of us here in the diaspora. And it is important for us all to understand that even as we are here, it is not for us, it's for the children unborn. And I think that is one thing that we are missing, especially when it comes to the African family. It's about how much the parent is able to build and buy cars and so on and so forth. It's for us. Everything we do is for us. I think our thinking machinery or our thinking must focus on our children. What are we leaving for our children? You know, if you think that living in a house and some cars to your child is the best way to go, then so be it. But we don't believe that is the solution to the problems. Let's engage our children to the exposure that we find here, and hopefully the next generation would be better for all of us. Thank you so much for staying tuned. This is Afro Voice Radio, and the time is exactly 12 noon. Joe, Swaziland recently just changed its name, and let me read a story and I will have a discussion on that one real quick. Africa's last absolute monarch has marked his 50th his country's 50th birthday with a rather unconventional gift, a different name. During the Golden Jubilee during the Golden Jubilee celebration Thursday, King Nwasti III announced that from this point henceforth, the land formerly known as Swaziland is now to be known as the Kingdom of Eswatini. Take note. The king made his declaration to a crowded stadium in Wanzimi, noting the name change is intended to shed vestiges of the country's colonial past. For much of the 20th century, the tiny landlocked nation was under British administration, only gaining its independence in the non-violent transfer of power in 1968. African countries on getting independence reverted to their Asian names before they were colonized, he told the crowd, according to France Press. So from now on, the country would be officially
been known as the Kingdom of Eswatini. Eswatini. And they say Eswatini, this is what it means. Place of Swazi. Place of Swazi. So Eswatini means the place of the Swazi in the Swazi language. Joe, what did you say about this name change? I don't know if in this century name change brings any addition or subtraction, but your take on this one.
Well, of course we are. It's a news because it's not really conventional for you to hear of name change in recent times. But we must admit that some countries have changed their names throughout history.
Example, Ghana.
Ghana. Ghana used to be Gold Coast, and after independence, we changed it to Ghana. We have Persia, Iran, and somewhere in 1935, they decided not to be called Persians again, but rather called Iran. Cambodia, they changed their name as well. We have Upper Volta. They changed their name to be called Burkina Faso. We have, I think, Benin. They also changed their names. We have a couple of countries that have changed their names in recent past. I think we remember another country called Burma and Myanmar. They used to be called Burma, but now they call the Kingdom, the Union Republic of Myanmar. It's the same country. So it's not unconventional, but just that it's not common. And most of the name change they do change because of maybe it carries some kind of colonial or some kind of bad image. So for instance, in the case of Ghana, we were thinking that Gold Coast was imposed on us, and that our country Ghana, through the research of Dankwa and Buzia knows that, and all the UGCs, they know that when we get independent, finally our country will be called Ghana, even though a lot of the history has been skewed, and people think that it's Kwame Nkrumah who gave the name Ghana, but Dankwa had already done the research long ago, and we all know our country was going to be called Ghana after independence. So we said Dankwa metamorphosized Ghana, and Nkrumah actually brought it into reality. But this one, and when I look at the pictures, Otumfuotu was there, so I think that he called all the kingdoms. Yeah, so this one, interestingly, it's one of the only countries in Ghana, or few of the countries. I don't think we even have another country that typically practice full monarchy in Africa. I don't think so. You come to Ghana, even though we have kings, and it's virtually nothing in terms of the states. But for Swaziland, fortunately for them, it's some kind of a monarch system. And I have been to Thailand before, and Thailand is also practicing some kind of. You dare not talk against the king of Thailand. And so for such a man, he's having all the power. I don't really know the meaning of Swaziland, even though what I knew is it's just English. I don't think it was carrying some kind of colonial mentality. And so changing it to Eswatini, meaning the land of the Swaz. There's nothing to add, there's nothing to deduct. It's his country. He can choose to marry. I think he's now having like 50 plus wives. But the only thing we could wish is if such opportunities have been able to transform the lives of ordinary people living in Eswatini. The last time I checked this morning, it has not been changed from Wikipedia, and UN, they have still not changed it.
I'm checking right now, it's changed.
It's changed now. Oh, wonderful. So maybe very soon they need to wipe it away from the African Union and begin to rewrite all the books again and effect the change Eswatini. And when I saw it, I was, the way they've written the E in a small capital, I was like, maybe that kind of E. They want to go e-switch or e-commerce or something like that. in a modern technological world, they want to make their names look more or less like a 21st century name. And so the name even sound romantic when you see it on paper. The way it's written, it's so
romantic.
Yeah,
I like that word. Anyways, I wasn't sure.
And for some strange reason,
it
it doesn't start with a capital letter 2.
Right.
It starts with a small E and then a capital S.
Yeah.
So
it's a unique form of changing the name. I do not know or have any clue why all of a sudden they're changing from that. But we can only tell from what you have said, based on examples that have been already established. Countries. I don't know why it took them that long to have this name changed from 1968, I believe. All the way to 2018. I'm not sure what caused that. In any case, we also understand that they are one of the few African countries that are really, really doing well when it comes to the economy and its people. I know South Africans. Southern part of Africa, they reverend that country so much. When you talk about Swaziland, it's one place that they normally go to. They go for greener pastures. Not even South Africa. They used to go to South Africa, but Swaziland is one of the few places that we are told their GDP is good. Capita per income. Just talk about all the economic indices. They're out there. Why they change, we don't know. But I take it from you that the E alone makes the change very romantic. So maybe that is one cause of it. So
according to the king, there were a lot of people having issue with Switzerland and
Swaziland. Absolutely. I per se, a long time ago, I wasn't sure
that
Swaziland
is in Africa. Or,
that could also be.
But so according to the king, in recent times, through his conversation and his press briefing and stuff like that, there has been some worrisome concerning Swaziland and Switzerland.
Yeah.
And so it is time for him to change the name.
It is true
to reflect the confusion. And I don't know, being in Ghana, sometimes when you say Ghana, people ask you, is it Guyana? Are we then to say because of Guyana we must also change our name? But it doesn't take anything away from them. But you must also understand that if you have a monarch system, it's easy to transform a nation.
Right.
Even though they are doing well, they could have been skyrocketing in terms of development, because things that democratically it becomes difficult to do, you can do them in countries like Eswatini. It's easily, because when the monarch decree, you have no basis to challenge. Unlike Ghana, where somebody will take you to court and blah 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 blah. Yeah, but it's good, at least in our lifetime, one country has been renamed, and let's hope that it changes their lives.
Joe, let's move to Nigeria. Just this week, I saw some news about intruders storming the Nigerian parliament to actually take hold of
the maze.
Is that
the maze?
The maze, yeah. And I was wondering what was going on in that parliament. We have spoken about how Nigeria sometimes in the world class are making Africa proud because they find themselves, when the numbers are called, you find a black guy who is from Africa and usually is Nigerian. And But when you hear some of these news also, it begins to scare you that where are we going when it comes to especially democracy and tolerance per se. What do you take? What do you see this is going to happen? People storming the parliament. Don't they have security in parliament that they could have stopped the people from even entering?
Well, Nigerian situation is
especially looking at the Boko Haram issue and everything in Nigeria. Wouldn't the parliament in Nigeria be secure enough?
That's the question you would ask. But there's more into it. When you see stuff like this in Africa, there's more into it than on the surface of it. What is actually happening is that Nigeria will be going into election next year. And for Nigerian election, is not like the Ghanaian election where we vote the president and the parliament.
Nigerians are more aligned to the American system.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, they do elect the president before the Senate, the upper chamber and the lower chamber. And
let me read the story real quick, and then maybe that will guide you. So Abuja, this is a story from Reuters. At least 3 intruders interrupted a session in the upper chamber of Nigeria Parliament on Wednesday and snatched the mace. The Senate's ceremonial staff. That is what Reuters said. The Reuters witness said he saw the men enter the chamber before picking up the mace and leaving with it in a swoop that lasted less than 2 minutes. It was not immediately clear who was behind the disruption or their motive. Decision taken in the Senate cannot be approved without the presence of the mace. So the symbolic nature of that maze is so huge that you can't take a decision without that thing being present. So this is a
yeah. So what? So like
the news are smart.
So what is happening? What's happening is that people are of the view that electing the president before the Senate and the senators and all the rest somehow skew the election results after, because once we know say APC or say this political party won the presidency, it influenced the outcome of the parliamentary, or in Nigeria they will say the Senate results.
The Senate result.
So rather, there's a split within the Senate, both the upper chamber and the lower chamber. Some people are of the view that this time around they should have the Senate election before the presidential election. But then when the INEC has already announced that it's going to have the presidential election before the Senate election. So what happened was that some MPs or some senators were of the view that it should be the other way around. And then when they proposed that bill, it became an issue of against Buhari and for Buhari, because people were of the view that those who are actually advocating for the change are against Buhari. And so there's one senator from Delta State on the ticket of APC. His name is Senator Ovian Omo Agaga. He was in the conversation and blah 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 made certain comment that was unpalatable for the chambers, and they decided to suspend him. He went to court, and the court ruled that you cannot suspend. If, in spite of all that they have suspended, they wanted to suspend him for 180 days. A lot of the Senate people intervened, and in the end, they were of the view that he should go to court and withdraw the case, and he shouldn't be punished. But then the Speaker of the Senate, the president in Nigeria, they call the president of the Senate, was the view that he must be punished, and so he punished him for 90 days. He has been suspended as at now. So before in the process of the negotiations and blah 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 blah, the authority that will finally say, okay, yes or no, what have you, so that the decision can actually be solidified, is when this mace, somebody came and actually stole the mace from the Parliament House. Right after that, the Senate, which is the Ovien Omo Agaga, was actually arrested by the police for interrogation. But surprisingly, he is saying that he has denied knowing anything with the case. Surprisingly, the guy who was able to enter the chamber and took the mice, surprisingly, is having a court injunction preventing his arrest.
Mm-hmm.
And so the police cannot arrest that guy because somebody has even gone to court to take court restraint order from the guy being arrested. So it's like there's a kind of a politics going on there. Other than that, it will sound strange and bizarre for somebody to walk in the midst of Boko Haram and the tight security in Nigeria, to walk all the way to enter the chamber, the lower chamber, and walk straight and pick the mace and was going. You could see in the video, people were trying to struggle with him, and then he got out from the chamber and then went and ran away with the mice. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But in the news, they have indicated that it was what do you call it? Armed men that went in, but we didn't see armed men.
We didn't see it. It's just only one guy who was. Even if it was armed men, probably they were at the back. But then in the video, you could see a police officer standing there, minding his own business, not trying to even intervene. You see, and then you could see all these old politicians and folks standing there running. Some of them are falling. Some of them are just sitting. One of them was sitting in a chair looking at the man, and the man was holding the mace and just running away. So it's just an attempt to disrupt the system. Yeah, but then the president is saying that is a high treason. It's an attempt. It's a coup. It's an attempt to overthrow the parliament, because it's like taking the authority means you have overthrown one arm of government. So for them, the guy needs to be arrested and try with high treason, because he's trying to overthrow one arm of government. And I mean, it's so funny how someone can harbor that kind of thoughts and actually go to Parliament House and take that. I mean, it's so ridiculous and funny. And if you look at the video, I was asking myself, wow. But the good thing is that when he took the mice away, one of them actually took his belt, and they used that. And if you follow the story on social media, you see a lot of Nigerians saying it's a disgrace if soldiers cannot protect Parliament House. How much more you living at your homes and stuff like that. And so a lot of people will say, yeah, I'm looking for any country that will adopt me. I want to ban my passport because this is a shithole country. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting.
Joe, let's. I want us to go to Ghana. We've got a lot of topics from Ghana, but let's talk quickly about America and Trump's world, and then we'll jump to Ghana. We've got maybe about 45 minutes to go, so let's do that. Let's use like 5 or 10 minutes to talk about Trump's world and jump to Ghana. Joe, I am not sure if you're following the stories, either CNN or anywhere you want to look at it from. But I'm beginning to wonder, do you think Mr. Trump would make his term? Now, I say this because of all the issues that have come up. We talk about, his right-hand man, which is his lawyer, being under investigation from the FBI Bureau investigation. We talk about you know, Trump and Putin. We know where the investigation in Congress and Mueller is all taking us to. We talk about James Comey coming up with his brand new book, and also his memos that he had written when was in office in his contest with President Trump and other staffers in Trump's administration. We talk about Stormy Daniels, you know, and the issues that are coming up. Even his most fierce defenders, Sean Hannon, you know, now it looks like he's been cut to pieces because he's also been now identified as the third client of Michael Cohen, who is the lawyer for Trump, who has some clients. There are a whole lot of issue happening here. Joe, does Mr. Trump really sleep in the night? We'll go into the issue one after the other.
We have the New York investigation, and then we have the Mueller investigation, right? Because then the New York investigation is about the lawyer and with the lawyer invasion, and which is linked to the Stormy Daniels case, and then you have the Mueller, which is also with the James Comey and blah 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 blah, relating to the Russian. For me, I think that Trump's biggest headache now is not the Russian investigation.
What is it?
It is the New York investigation now. That is Trump's
with his right hand man.
Yes.
Okay.
Because possibly there are so much incriminating evidence. In what they have, what the FBI is having now, and based on the last week court ruling, the court has actually given the FBI go ahead to go through the documents together with Trump's and people from the FBI.
Go on.
To go through the documents, and if they are able to find incriminating evidence, of course we know that Trump once, or the lady has said, the prostitution case has been settled, and now he can go on and make whatever claim he disclosure. Okay, so we are going to find more in detail about that, what was actually agreed on, what happened, and then possibly through that you are also going to find a lot of incriminating stuff about Trump's deal and possible collusion with even the Russians, money laundering and stuff like that. So I mean, if you look at Trump, yesterday I was looking at him when he was giving a press briefing about the possible engagement with the North Korean leadership and South Korean. You could see that the man is actually having some kind of difficulty in thinking, some kind of difficulty in actually being of himself, because the problems are becoming too much. Every day you wake up, there's another story. Every day you wake up, there's another story. And he's having a country to govern. Another thing is, it's also giving the media too much weapon to attack Trump, even if Trump wants to go 2020 election. It's not going to be like the 2016 election where they were more or less rumor and people just let him go scot-free. This time around, they are going to ask him. I can't imagine a debate between Trump and whoever is going to be the Democratic nominee, and CNN or SNBC or whatever, with all these evidences that the media is having now. I'm thinking Trump is going to be so angry, and because he's going to be temperamental, and you know him, insult and that is going to spoil his chances. So at first I was of the view that Trump might finish his term, But I'm beginning to be a bit skeptical, looking at how the whole thing is coming. Every day there's another story. Every day there's another story. Twist and turn. Even though he's a tough person, there are only two options. Either he'll go for one term and not continue the second term, or he might not even finish the one term, looking at what is happening.
I'm trying to look for a video where, again, Trump actually posing as his own this is a PR or something for a company, and Fortune 500 company, and I'm told, and I'm trying to look. I don't want to misquote what is happening here, but I'm trying to look for the video. But basically, what Trump did was that he posted as somebody else, and then told a reporter who was reporting for the Fortune 500 that Trump is worth this amount. So put him in the category of list, because that report,
as a Trump organization.
As a Trump organization, okay. PRO something. But let me find the video. And then he posted basically deceiving the reporter and speaking in the voice like he's not Trump, but rather he's working for Trump and the Trump organization, and that Trump is worth that amount. I would go into that, but the lies of Mr. Trump, do you think that the damage that his presidency is causing long after he's gone can be fixed?
Well, in terms of principle and fairness, Trump should have resigned by now, because if you look at some senators or some congressmen who resigned just because of accusation, I have forgotten that Democrat senator who resigned because of accusation many years ago. And a lot of people, I mean, all over, we are aware, a lot of CEOs who have resigned because of allegations. Some of them denied, some of them have even NPR. You have almost every corporate institution, one of the, whether media or corporate world, business world, or wherever, or Senate or whatever, somebody have resigned in relation to sexual misconduct. Interestingly, Trump is still there, even though there's evidence. Some of them they led to settlements, some of them he denied, but there's overwhelming evidence to suggest that he has been involved one way or the other in some kind of abuse. I think that people spared him in 2016, but in 2020, I think that he will not be able to jump the ladder. I think in 2020 they are going to judge him by the standard they have judged almost everyone.
Every president.
Every not even president, people in corporate world who have resigned because of sexual abuse or abuse of women and stuff like that.
But others are holding on to the fact that Trump might win again because Americans voted for him with all his problems that they knew. They still voted for him. So being a president with this new revelation really doesn't mean anything because people already voted for him.
Yeah, but
do you take it?
Trump was having a message, and that message resonated in the minds of blue-collar jobs and marginalized people and white community and stuff like that. And actually, when Trump was being attacked, it was more or less seen as a propaganda from the media, because Trump is making progress. Now, there's more evidence to suggest that Trump indeed is not the holy man we have all come to know. There's physical evidences to that, and there's so much kind of
okay, I found, sorry, but I was looking for the story, so I found the story. Let me read to our listeners real quick, and then we'll continue from there. So a former Forbes reporter claims that Donald Trump, before he was president, pretended to be the Trump Organization executive speaking on Trump's behalf, and then lied about his worth in order to crack the Forbes 400 list. And we continue. He figured out what he had to do in order to deceive me, that is a reporter talking, and get into the list. And he did it very well. And he maintained that persona of just sort. And I've got a video here. Let me play the video for our listeners. Then I will read the story. I'll just continue reading the story. So, listeners, just stay. Okay. Listen to the video, Joe.
One of the aliases President Trump has been accused of using over the years.
Okay, what's your first name then? John Barron.
John Barron, one of the aliases President Trump has been accused of using over the years to speak with reporters glowingly about himself.
Most of the assets have been consolidated to Mr. Trump, because you have down Fred Trump.
In this call from 1984, the so-called Barron is claiming that the assets of Trump's wealthy father, Fred, are in fact his. So, he deserves a higher spot in the famous Forbes 400 list.
And it's been pretty well consolidated, okay? So that's one point that you can...
that is it. Now, is that including the residential?
Yes, everything's been consolidated basically now, and over the last couple of years they've been working on it.
Trump, as himself, was in regular contact with former Forbes reporter Jonathan Greenberg, repeatedly arguing for a better ranking.
And then you mentioned other names, and there's no contest. There's no contest.
Greenberg didn't take Trump at his word, and Forbes decided to list Trump at $100 million, much lower than his stated value. Greenberg says later research showed he was worth under $5 million at the time and didn't belong anywhere near the list.
He is a consummate con man. He figured out what he had to do in order to deceive me and get onto that list. And he did it very well. And he maintained that persona of just sort of talking about his assets without any sense of debt and lying about it.
Greenberg says he's only reporting this now because he just recently came across these tapes from the mid-'80s. He alleges that Trump repeatedly inflated his wealth by dramatically exaggerating the value and number of his properties.
He lied about there were 25,000 apartments in Brooklyn and Queens and Staten Island. There were 8,000 apartments in Brooklyn and Queens. He lied about his father, that he owned all of his father's assets, and he borrowed against his father's assets.
Trump has long denied that he is John Barron or another alleged alias, John Miller, who would call gossip reporters.
By the way, I'm sort of new here, and what is your position? Well, I'm sort of handling PR because he gets so much of it.
It didn't sound like me, though, really. You think that sounded like me?
Yeah.
I don't.
But then?
Over the years, I've used alias. If you're trying to buy land, you use different names.
What
and you
names
have an alias. Would you use? I actually used the name Barron.
So at one point,
so how can you run away from stuff like this?
No, the amazing thing about Mr. Trump is that he denies an accusation or an allegation, and then in the next contest or his response to the same question, he admits it. Now, what kind of psychological
because he has
advantage is that? I mean, how do you lie and at the same time said it's not a lie?
Yeah, but you have
that context.
Yeah, because he has been doing this over a long period of time, it has become part of him, and people were not scrutinizing him very, very well. Unfortunately, this time around, they are aware and scrutinizing him to the core, and that is what is going to dismantle him in 2020. So I am of the view that if Trump continues to go the way he's going, it's only two things: either he goes without context in 2020, or he's going to be defeated in 2020, irrespective of whatever nominee the Democratic Party is going to come with. Because they are getting him from all angles, from the con man, from abusing women, from insulting almost everyone, from lying, deceit, and from not even keeping to the promise, and picking fight with Amazon, UPS, and I mean, the next thing you hear of is Trump will attack a certain company and the stocks is just boom. So, I mean, I sat here last.
I can feel the
in 2016. I said Trump was going to win.
Right, I can feel the pain in your voice because you have been an advocate for Mr. Trump before he won, and I mean, you may have your reasons why you said that, because you felt there was an opportunity, or there was something with Mrs. Hillary. And so Trump was exploiting that advantage, and that is what you saw and predicted Trump was going to win. And I get it, but every day and these stories, aren't we fatigued? You know, aren't we tired?
That is why
of the stories.
That is why any nominee, and I'm saying this, any nominee that the Democratic Party is going to bring, it's having more or less chance of winning this 2020.
You believe
election.
that?
I believe that. Secondly,
you believe Americans will not vote Mr. Trump the next 4 years?
Yeah, because the people that voted for Trump, most of them voted for Trump on this idea of making American great.
But when you speak recently. CNN conducted a survey of Trump supporters, which is about 36-37%, and basically 9 out of 10 believe that Mr. Trump is doing exactly what they voted for him.
Okay.
Now, if these people are believing that, and the unknown ones, we know that a lot of people voted for him in secrecy, because they didn't want to be exposed or know that they were voting that man. Don't you think that he still have a huge chance of re-winning? Because anyway, his base is still with him, and those that vote in secret, they're still going to vote in secret regardless.
Unfortunately, the problem with Trump, the problem is going to come from, for instance, this fight with Trump, this fight with Russia, with China about steel tariffs and stuff like that. Majority of the farmers, corn farmers that voted for Trump in the rural American community, if China decides to say impose a tariff,
they also believe that. I'm not cutting you, but they believe that China is not going to impose that tariff. Neither is America. There's still negotiation going on. They only understand this language, and Mr. Trump and his supporters understand that tough talk actually brings results. And so doing, we talk about North Korea. Trump's talk is actually breaking grounds with North Korea, where North Korea, after many years, has now announced that it is shutting down its missile testing area. They are calling an end to the tests of nuclear development.
Okay,
so they're saying that Mr. Trump,
you can do that to energize your base. You keep that base.
But if
you have to understand.
I mean, talk about the biggest tax cut that America has ever given to corporations. The Democrats have spoken about it. The Republicans have spoken about it, and every time it never passes. And Mr. Trump came in with his tough talk, and there is a tax cut. I mean, in fact, there is a tax break for corporation for over a decade.
Certainly, you are right, but we are also aware of certain state programs that have also been cancelled. And for instance, if you look at the dynamism of the election results last 4 years, you would realize that states like Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, some of the states actually Trump won by not a large majority, maybe 40,000, sometimes at most 50,000. And such states, if you get a Democratic, people who voted on issues, for instance, people who were of the view that Hillary is not a straightforward person, and so Trump is bashing Hillary, and so they voted for Trump, most likely we're not going to vote for Trump again, because they have also come to know Trump is not any good better than Hillary in terms of morality and sticking to whatever they believe in. people who are more or less gender prone and who are of the view that people must resign for abusing women, they are not going to vote for Trump again. Okay, you look at some rural folks who were campaigning, for instance, especially people who are
why wouldn't they vote for him? I'm saying that
they won't vote for him because clearly there are evidences to the extent that yes, Trump has been abusing women, Trump has been engaging
but those evidence already existed when they voted.
No, at that time
there were how many?
No,
about 40 something ladies.
No, at that time it was more or less like an attack on Trump, and so Trump can become defensive on it and win, because it just started surfacing when he was making the news. Now he won the election and people are actually scrutinizing him and subjecting him to the test, and indeed it is proven. For instance, the lady came out and said, yeah, you settled me, it went to court, and if the document comes out, things like what you just played over, it just goes to reinforce that he was actually impersonating. It also goes to reinforce that he's a con man. Okay, and all these things were not available at that time. Even in the midst of election, if you attack your opponent, people don't take it serious because they then think that it's because it's political. But now we are. I was a strong advocate of Trump, but politically.
But talking about that way, Roy Jones of Alabama Senate, he was accused almost as the same things that Trump was accused. Women came out, alleged his sexual, what do you call it? Sexual abuse on them, and yet that man lost. But when it comes to Trump, he won, even though over, like I said, 22 or something.
Yeah, but you have to remember after the election, almost all people who have been accused of that, including my own Kentucky, the man has to even hang himself. He commits suicide.
Okay, yeah.
You see, and so it's becoming more or less difficult to run away now. It's becoming more or less difficult to run away now.
So what you're saying is that
I am of the view that any candidate that will contest Trump at the Republican election might win. So Trump is even having two difficulties to succumb. One, Trump needs to
you think John Casey would contest him?
I'm of the view that, and if he comes, I am of the view that he will win, because Trump won the election by just 37% within the Republican Party. You have almost close to 63% against Trump within the party. So any candidate, and I'm saying that if you get like Mitt Romney, or if you get I don't know whether Paul Ryan is going to come, or you get even Marco Rubio.
Of course, Paul Ryan is retiring from politics.
Who knows? Maybe he's just resigning so he can come and contest. I don't think so. Anyway, anybody that will come, that person is most likely going to win. And even if Trump is able to win the Republican contest and come to the national one, any candidate that the Democrat will come, who is more or less, because I read within the week that Joe Biden is saying that he's not ruling out contesting 2020. If you get a candidate like him, Trump is going to be in very, very trouble. State like Michigan, Ohio, it can easily flip. And if you get these states, Ohio, Michigan flipping, Trump is in trouble already. So I strongly believe I'm not yet done with all the analysis, because we don't have candidate for Democrat. But as soon as we get candidate for Democrat, I'm still going to be here again. And the same people that I used to predict that Trump is going to win, I'm going to come here again and tell you whether Trump is going to indeed win. But from what I am looking, I don't think Trump might be able to
even end the 4 years.
Exactly. No, he might end the 4 years, but I don't think he can win the 2020 election. I don't even think he can even succeed within the party. Trust me, any candidate that will come forward from the Republican Party is most likely going to win?
Well, Trump stories, we cannot finish talking about them, and sometimes it makes us fatigue, and we ask ourselves, are we ready? Would we be ready for another 4 years of the same every day? And personally, not because I hated Mr. Trump, but I think that his bargains are just too much, and we cannot do this for another 4 years.
That's the point.
It is painful to do this for the next 4 years. He's in his second year, and we're already tired.
And almost everyone is running away.
Yeah, we are almost tired. So I think it would do himself and all of us a favor if he does not run. I mean, personally, I think that he would do us a favor if he does not run again. But we'll see what happens. Like you said, we'll look at all the indices. We'll look at all the facts and analysis. And when he makes when he comes, we'll make a prediction here too.
You were just talking about Paul Ryan. People are of the view, and that is indeed scientific.
Yeah.
Because Paul Ryan, for instance, they've all done the mathematics. They've realized that if he decides to even contest again, chances are that he's going to lose. Chances are that he's going to lose. And so to do the smart thing is to resign, retire, and then maybe possible in future decide to come for the presidency or something like that, instead of running and losing, which dents your image when you want to resurrect. And why are they? If you look at all the elections after Trump presidency, Republicans have suffered more. Look at New Jersey. Look at
you mean the special elections?
Elections. Is it Alabama?
Rogers.
So all of Trump Republicans have suffered
recently
more
Pennsylvania.
Than
District 4 district in Pennsylvania.
And that is a place where Trump won by almost 20 something percent. It tells you that most of the senators are actually worried, even in the upcoming midterm election. And all the Democrats needs to do is just get their art and pieces well and get a right candidate. Trump is going to be the second immediate one-term election after Bush. Is it Bush? Yeah, after Bush. Trump might be Bush Senior. Bush Senior was there for just one term.
And Jimmy Carter for Democrats.
For Democrats, Trump might be the next person.
So for the Republicans.
Okay. So it's not sounding like a good thing for Trump at all.
Okay. Anyway, we've got 10 more minutes to go. Let's jump straight to Ghana. Joe, interesting stories. Very, very interesting stories. One, let's pick this one. Double salary saga. I'm not sure why you're laughing, but when I read a story, and I have to bias here, I was shocked. I was shocked how it happened and how it could happen. Now let me read a story from Daily Guide, which is not my favorite news, but let me read the story from it. Information reaching the Daily Guide indicates that some former ministers in the National Democratic Congress, government and members of parliament who have been caught in alleged double salary scandal are submitting their bank statements to the Criminal Investigation Department, that is the CID of Ghana Police. It has emerged that a number of them have already sent their bank statements for scrutiny by the CID, despite the claim by top-notch members of the NDC that the move to investigate them is a case of political witch hunt. According to sources, there were frantic efforts by some of the former ministers last week to get through to their bankers to get the details of their monthly salary structure for onward submission to the police. So I read this story and I asked myself, there is payment, and I want to believe that parliaments are also on the list of
Article 71.
Article 71 earnings. Now, when the account, I'm not sure how that Article 71 and the Accountant General's department synchronizes public office holders, because somehow that resource must be synchronized with what the accountant general has, correct?
What is happening is that Parliament pays its workers.
I know it pays, but when it pays, he has to report that to a branch. Is that not what the case is?
Of course.
Who does he report
so what
to?
happens is that Parliament makes their budgets and takes it to controller and
Controller General,
accountant general,
right?
Sorry, and then accountant general pays Parliament with the money, and Parliament pays its workers.
Okay, correct.
And then you have the executives who are also paid from the controller.
So somehow, we are concluding to say somehow the controller general is the common denominator between all these things.
Certainly.
So therefore, if somebody comes from the executives and present an account, and another comes from the legislature and present an account, the common denominator must be able to reconcile that are you earning from here, are you earning from here, correct?
Yes, but you would also understand, and this is what might happen in principle. Controller might just receive approved budget from the from Parliament. So it's not going to be like an itemized budget. Even if it's going to be an itemized budget, I am sure controller might be getting combined salary. And so controller just pay the money in terms of bulk budget estimate, and not MP of so and so, MP of that MP.
So basically what you're saying is that they may not have the breakdown.
It breaks down.
But is it not their responsibility that any account that is presented to them, they would go into, regardless of what the quantum of whatever budget is sent to them, their duty is to go into it
certainly.
And
another issue that even makes it difficult is that we have this idea of somebody, say, becoming a minister for 2 months.
And hold on a second. Maybe some of our listeners are not following what I just read. So what I just read is that in Ghana Parliament, or in Ghana today, the trending issue is that there is a law which bars parliamentarians and the executives from taking to pay. In fact, if you are a parliamentarian, and you have been appointed as a minister of state, you forfeit one payment. You can either decide to continue to take parliamentarian salary, which is, of course, like Joe has stated, is consolidated from the Parliament Committee or Parliament Account Department. Or you can decide to say, I am forfeiting the parliamentarian pay and I'm only taking the executive pay, which I have been employed as an executive member of the government. You cannot take two. But what has happened in this instance or this case is that there are people who are in Parliament, took the parliamentarian pay, and at the same time allow the executive arm of government to also pay them. So in this case, they are paying them twice. So assuming they're taking $2,000 from the parliamentarian coffers, and they pay another $2,000, they've taken and $4,000. And this is what we're talking about, that we want to investigate where the crime is coming from. Is it the people that made available, or is the crime bigger than what we are all talking about? Go continue.
And one thing we must add is it's only happened to NDC MPs when they were in power, and we must also say MPs who were ministers. So what they are saying is, it has been very difficult for MPs or government to actually come out with the exact salary of workers, of government holders and appointees. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that when somebody is appointed, say, a minister of state, he's actually not told.
Yes, the line is open. So they're asking me. I didn't even check. I was so into it. The line is open, and you can call right now. It's 513. Hold on.
So the NDC folks deliberately.
Yeah, it's 51. Sorry, it's not 513. It's 937-660-4646. 937-660-4646. The line is open. I'm very, very sorry. We were into the discussion. I didn't open the line. So please call us.
Deliberately took double salaries. And one would expect, when we asked them, they said they didn't check their bank statement, blah blah. One would expect that, having been aware that you are taking salary from the parliament and being paid from the executive, one would expect that you at least make an effort to approach whoever is paying you and try to reconcile the difference. But they never did that, and they squandered the money because of the election. And they were thinking nobody is going to find out that they are taking double salaries. In fact, indeed, there are some MPs, some people like Honorable Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, they came forward and said they were paid twice. 2009 when. So
you mean this same thing happened before, but the MPs were genuine to say they
the MP said in 2009, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu said he was paid twice, but then he returned the money. Our own citizen vigilante, Martin Amidu, he has also confessed that he has been paid twice before, but then he returned. We have Obi Amwa of Nsawam. He said he has been paid twice.
I'm beginning to,
and he returned the money.
So we are saying that we know this exists. That the accountant general understands that they are paying people 2 times, and they still sat on the issue for people to bring money back.
In fact, what you're even leaving out is their ex gracias has also been paid twice. Their ex gracias, not only their salaries, their ex gracias, which is like 400,000 plus, has also, some of them have been paid twice from the executive and from parliament. From the executive and from parliament. So there's something wrong with the system which needs to be.
But the ex gratia only happens after the end of it, after the parliament ends.
After the end.
So after 4 years.
After 4 years.
So are you saying that after 4 years, regardless of which government is coming through, when they begin to audit the tenure of a parliament, then they're giving these end of term gratia, the executive sits down for this person to take from the executive arm of government, and then
take from the what's it called, from parliament. Mm-hmm. You see, what I'm beginning to ask, and I want to be objective, what I'm beginning to understand from what is going on is that they seem not to have a real salary structure for them. Actually, by our own constitution, your entitlement is determined after you are out of government. And so what is happening is that, according to them, even though they were taking money, whatever money is given to you is based on accounts. So at the end of your tenure, whatever is going to be your ex gratia, they are going, and at that time your actual salary or emolument has been defined. They just deduct how much have been given to you.
I don't get it. Go come again. So we're saying that the parliamentarian does not care, or the minister does not care where the money is coming from.
You see, you become a member of parliament today, from 2000, from now. Mm-hmm. You need to be paid at the end of the month.
Right.
But then your salary has not been determined yet. Or you become an MP, your salary has not been determined yet. A minister, your salary has not been determined yet. Okay? But then you need to be paid. So they pay them based on account of, say, previous MP salary. That is exactly what is happening.
Okay. So it's becoming interesting. So what you're saying is that an MP takes a seat in parliament. He does not know how much he's going to be paid, because his payment is only determined after the parliament ends its term.
After the parliament ends its term, or somehow in between the 4 years, your salary.
And this is the law that we have as a country.
Because based on our law, we have stated that when you are about exiting, that is why anytime a president is exiting, you hear of a monument committee.
But a monument and ex gratia has nothing to determine your salary.
Yeah.
A monument, to my understanding, and ex gratia is after you have performed, and then they consolidate everything, and then they realize that based on A, B, C, D, we are actually, it has to be either high or less.
That is exactly what they are. The question you have to ask yourself is, it's not like MP salary. That is what we might have to do. We might have to, as a country, decide that MP salary, MPs are paid this based on the controller standard, and that every annual increment, just like any worker, doctor, teachers, every annual inflation adjustment kicks in.
Right.
That is what we as a country must decide on. If we decide on, then we just put it straight into the controller system. But if we don't do that and we go by as it stands now, it depends on what the executive will come. So the executive comes in, you are MP, you need to be paid a month later.
Wow.
We have not determined how much you are going to be paid. So whatever is given to you is based on account.
I think let me say this. This is huge because we're going to go into it again next week. Our time is done. It's done.
And we are talking about just 500 people.
Yeah, we're supposed to really analyze this issue and see how, because I am beginning and from what I'm hearing from you, even if we're just taking what is it now, the best practices now, that they do not know how much they are worth until they end their term. Therefore, they take any money that comes into their account to say that maybe that money is given to us, and then at the end, it shall be consolidated, and the refund, if it's refunded, it has to be refunded, or if there's going to be an addition, then there will be an addition.
Exactly.
But also, clearly, the Constitution also defines that there will not be double payment.
No, but the question you have to ask yourself is, some ministers are not MPs.
Right, so rationally, but accountant general should know which ministers are MPs.
If you are an MP and you are making 16,000 Ghana cedis from Parliament, and then some way somehow they are paying you almost 20,000 from the executive, you should know there's something wrong.
Absolutely,
because some ministers are not MPs, and certainly they are your friends, so you can certainly ask them how much they are being paid.
But again, it then falls to the analogy that you just gave, that they do not care where the money is coming from.
That is where integrity comes in.
That's where integrity. But who is allowing this to happen? As a country, we must first. And I was giving this example one time when direct deposit actually started happening in Ghana, and I was working with this company, and I was, I had, and I'll mention the bank. It was Ghana. Oh, come on, it just not EcoBank.
Commercial bank.
Not commercial bank.
ADB.
I'll remember it. But it was this bank that I was, saving with. And one time I went to withdraw my money because I was paid. Then I realized that my money has been doubled. And I immediately I took out the money. I went in because the ATM had just started operating. So I went in the next night and I took it. Within the weekend, I've taken out all the money.
They will come after you.
And you know what happened?
Next controller, your money will come.
The last time, and I was so silly. Instead of taking, when I took the money out, I was supposed to have closed the account. Or went to my accountant in a company and say, you know what, I'm not using this account again. This is my new bank account. But I didn't do that.
You thought another double.
Exactly my point. I thought another double was going to come. And as soon as my money dropped, they took all the money.
All the money.
They didn't even leave a dollar. And I was so broke that month. And I think even the money they took was not enough to cover. So the rest
it does happen. Sometimes controller do pay people double. I mean, teachers, sometimes it does happen, and then they will start jubilating. But then they realize that it's taken from them again.
But the point I'm saying here is that I can swear to everything that the Ghanaian, when they find double payment,
normally
will not. And that is the reason why Accountant General, even from what you're saying, if it happened before that people are coming to say you've paid us double wages, they should have corrected this thing from somewhere.
Exactly.
That is my concern right now.
What we need to do as a country is we need to really have like a social security number for everyone. It's easy, and that's why sometimes I get. We need to have a social security.
We have, but I wonder
Well, because what you have to understand, once we have a social security number, we put it in the system. Your name is there. Your name is there in the system. We have a payment structure. When you become an MP, and I tell you for today, if no MP in Ghana today is having a contract, even though you have been nominated as an MP on the ticket of your party, they are not giving like a something to sign which says that you are an MP and you are going to be paid this, blah blah. They don't have that.
But what is the swearing in Parliament? Is that not an example?
No, once you swear in, that you swear in. But
I'm saying that is that not the symbol? Like in Nigeria, where they see the monarch, the mace.
No, there should be something which validates. Say, okay, I'm going to be paid this. This is like my salary structure.
Right.
But they don't have that. So what is happening is that sometimes your money can go up, sometimes your money can drop, and all you get to know is something is coming into your account. Okay, so it makes it difficult for them to find out. But the point is, if it's like 500, 400, 300 Ghana cedis, at least you can go away. But if you are making like $2,000 here, $2,000 here, that is $4,000. Obviously, there's something wrong. Obviously, you should know there's something wrong. But then again, these MPs are so much in trouble. They want to win the next election. So people, by the time the money even gets into the account, they are even broke.
So it's likely also that they are taking the amount knowing very well they're not supposed to, but they also have the confidence that by the time they reconcile it, and it will not be a problem for them.
That is what that is the argument now. And that is their,
but that argument cannot hold.
That is the argument now, and that they are saying, some of them are saying they reconciled it, okay, but it's ridiculous because naturally it's difficult to take 16,000 here, 2,000 here, blah 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 blah. There's something wrong right there.
Could it also be that when a person is appointed? Let me rephrase.
You see, what happens is that when somebody is appointed as a minister, and you are MP is your preoccupation, so you are paid from that side, because your minister, you can be sacked, you can be fired. So most MPs always want to take their MP's salary, because that one they are secured is 4-year term.
But then if you are fired as a minister, it reverts you back to
you
your
are
MP.
Talking about Ghana here, and the process of going to that, maybe by 2-3 months time your salary is not going to come. So the smart thing to do is to stick to the MP.
But which I'm also told that the payments for the MP is lesser than the payment for the executive.
No, so what happens is you are supposed to get a premium. You are supposed to get a premium. So in reality, what should have happened is, if they are taking 16,000 Ghana cedis here, there should have been a premium of 4,000 to make it 20,000, which is what the MP, which is what the minister is taking.
Right.
But they take 16,000 from here, and the government gives them another 20,000. But their defense is that they have the view that because whatever is coming from the presidency is a premium. They have the view that even though it is 20,000, it is still a premium. It is not a salary.
But
because nobody have told them you have been appointed as a minister and your salary is 20,000. So they know whatever is coming from the presidency or
it's a premium,
or as a top up.
What does the law say in that aspect? Does the law clearly states that you have the executive arm of government or the other part can pay you a premium?
Yeah, of course, because your salary, once you are a minister, your pay is higher than an MP. So all we get to do is find the differences and pay you.
But where is the difference supposed to come from?
The difference is supposed to come from the executive. So the executive will ask you, do you want to take your salary from here or from there? Then most people will opt to take it from MP.
So if they opt to take it from the MP, then the executive must send that premium to the executive to add up to their salary.
That could have been an option. So currently, that is what Nanado is doing. Currently, MPP government is not paying ministers top up again through executive. They take everything to Parliament, and Parliament pay them.
Okay.
That's exactly what they are doing now.
Okay.
But that is what NDC didn't do. So they were paying directly from the executives. And so most likely you end up not knowing who is even an MP and blah 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 blah, and so you might run all the payroll. and give it to them.
But if the premium, and I think this, and you've given me an understanding of the in-depth of what is happening, but I think we need a lot of time to actually break these issues down and discuss it. Unfortunately, our time is gone. So if we can do it next week, I think that it should be the first topic for to discuss on this show. I think it's going to help us because we have a lot, and I'm very grateful that for your explanation. I was beginning to worry a lot, and I'm still worried how it's happening because I can't imagine how it's happening. But yeah, doctor says he's calling, but there hasn't been any call here. I haven't seen any call. Unfortunately, doctor, I'm not sure what is happening, but I haven't seen any call here, and sorry if you could not call and talk to us. I really do apologize. I know that someone also tried to call us and was saying that, Joe, you got to be what? It's a blah blah. If that is what is happening, then something definitely must be done. If this is also politics, then we have to look into it and get away with the political sentiment of some of these issues and deal with the real issues. And I keep saying the real issues, because that is what only builds us as a country. We cannot continue to politicize everything without even understanding them. If it's criminal, let us prosecute. If it's not crime, let's just take out the political sentiment and help our countries develop. Once again, my name is Eb, and I've been here with
Joseph Oseusu.
Joseph Oseusu is my co-pilot. Next week, God willing, Dr. Louis Sakor would be here to also take the show from here. We want to thank you all for joining and staying tuned with us. Thank you for listening from all the way in London. Thank you also, Dr. Furiata from Columbus, listening. Ben Amankwa, you also listening here in Cincinnati. You all out there. Michael Planch from Florida, I know you're listening. Richard Brown in Ghana, you were listening. Thank you so much, all guys. We couldn't take your calls, but forgive me. I will check and see what happened to my phone line. On the same time next week, exactly 11 a.m. Eastern Time, I want to catch you on the flip side. Happy weekend. Bye.
Mr. IMF, Miss World Bank, Mr. Asban, Mrs. White, Mr. Europe, Mr. USA, Mr. Foreigner, Mr. Abacha, Mobutu Sese Seko, Columbus, Mr. ECG, Miss GWC, Mr. Politician, Mr. GNPC. But because of time constraint, we shall deal with ovoloplastic unputernable as commentors hospitals of NDC and mammograph sobriety of echronicity NPB.
Now, Mr. RDC, I didn't know that you love democracy that much. Why didn't you use the procedure of democracy to get into power?
Your Honor, 01 personality runs through AFRC, TNDC, and NDC. AFRC